In Syria, over 300 civilians in the Latakia coastal region were killed in 5 massacres perpetrated by the de facto government. Politician Fritz Alphonse officially and temporarily took over as head of Haiti's Presidential Transitional Council. And the world celebrates International Women's Day, a day meant to honor women's role in society amid an ongoing struggle against inequality and discrimination. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Syria, more than 300 civilians in the Latakia coastal region were killed in 5 massacres perpetrated by the de facto government. Human rights organizations denounced the death of at least 311 civilians, including in the coastal region, at the hands of government forces. Witnesses say that since Thursday, the security forces of the de facto government triggered violent clashes in the coastal city of Jable and then spread to other localities in the provinces of Tartus and Latakia in the west of the country. Experts qualify this event as the biggest violence recorded in Syria since the overthrow of President Bashar al-Assad's government last December. Israeli forces continue their aggressions against the Palestinian people after destroying several camps in the occupied West Bank. The United Nations organization condemned the aggressions against the Jenin, Tulkarem and Nur Shams camps, denouncing the eviction of the Palestinians as well as the destruction of their infrastructure. The international organization warns that these war campaigns are causing the displacement of more than 40,000 civilians, considered the largest displacement of Palestinians in the West Bank in the last 50 years. The Zionist attacks are part of the expansionist plan of Israel called Iron Wall, with the aim of destroying the homes of millions of Palestinian shelters from territories occupied by the Tel Aviv regime. The Palestinian resistance movement Hamas supported the decision of the Yemeni movement Ansarullah to resume naval operations against Israel. Through a communique, Hamas praised the Ansarullah decision, which gave Israel 4 days to allow the entry of humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip or face again a naval blockade by Yemen in the Red Sea. The Palestinian resistance called on the countries of the region to adopt the Yemeni movement's measures to eradicate Zionism and thwart its plans for famine in the Palestinian enclave. Since the agreement of an Israeli ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, Hamas reiterated its commitment to implement all the terms of the agreement and the exchange of prisoners in all its stages. In Israel, 56 hostages released by the Palestinian Hamas movement issued a letter demanding Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to complete the second phase of the ceasefire agreement. They said that resuming fighting would mean exposing all those who remain in the enclave to danger. Meanwhile, the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas released a video in which an Israeli soldier appeals to Israeli authorities, saying the only way to achieve freedom for all hostages is an exchange agreement and an end to attacks. However, the Israeli government continues violating the ceasefire agreement that came into force last January the 19th and has not yet revoked a ban on the entry of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. In Indonesia, flash floods and landslides have left 3 dead and 5 missing in Sukabumi Regency, west of Java province. A press official said rescue operations will continue for the next 7 days or more if necessary. There are teams carrying out risk assessments to establish the exact magnitude of this natural catastrophe. Heavy machinery has been mobilized to speed up the cleaning of avenues and roads. At least 26 houses are seriously affected and a bridge has collapsed. In Iraq, heavy rains caused severe flooding in the streets of Baghdad and other governorates. In response to the problem, the authorities ordered the mobilization of emergency teams to mitigate the crisis in key areas where the water level has reached the height of the sidewalk. The flooding affected not only highways and unpaved roads, but also commercial establishments and some homes. Several governors declared a state of emergency in their respective provinces and encouraged residents to avoid road travel until the situation is brought under control. In Peru, weather authorities issued Friday a red alert in 8 departments due to possible landslides caused by heavy rains. The alerts were specially issued to ravines due to the heavy rainfalls expected in several regions of the country. On the other hand, yellow alerts have been issued for the regions of Lambayeque, Piura, and Tacna, while 11 departments are under orange alerts. In this context, in Argentina, the storm in Bahia Blanca left at least 10 people dead and thousands of evacuees, forcing authorities to implement a preventive power outage and to suspend all activities until further notice. In this sense, the municipality has warned about the magnitude of the weather disaster, which generates concern about the possibility of more victims. For this reason, the community is in a state of alert, while the damage is assessed and assistance is sought for those affected by this devastating storm.
We are receiving support from the Argentine army, both with heavy machinery and boats. We are working to evacuate by river the patients from Pena Hospital, which is completely flooded, to the municipal hospital.
And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Politician Fritz Alphonse officially and temporarily took over as head of Haiti's Presidential Transitional Council. Alphonse will have the mission to create the conditions for the holding of general elections in November 2025. Since February 2016 and until March of the same year, the now president was the Prime Minister of Haiti in the interim government of former President José Lerme Privet, and now he will replace Leslie Voltaire until August 7th, 2025. Voltaire found it impossible to control the gangs in the country, which upon his arrival owned 80% of Port-au-Prince and its surrounding areas, and today they have 85% of the capital. In Ecuador, 5 deprived of liberty were found dead in the Penitenciaria del Litoral, the country's largest prison. According to the Service of Integral Attention to the Adult Deprived of Liberty, the discovery took place Friday morning. The entity pointed out that the causes of the event are being investigated and added that the bodies are being autopsied. The institute also assured that there are no records of any riot by the inmates at the center. Since 2021, more than 500 prisoners have been killed in Ecuadorian jails. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on Thursday to create the country's first strategic Bitcoin reserve in an attempt to make the United States a crypto capital of the world. According to the White House cryptocurrency czar, David Sachs, the currency will be held as a store of value and Washington will not sell any bitcoins deposited there. The reserve will be capitalized with bitcoins belonging to the U.S. federal government that were seized as part of criminal or civil asset forfeiture proceedings. The executive order establishes a United States digital asset pool consisting of digital assets other than Bitcoin such as Ethereum, XRP, Solana, and Cardano. Kenyan President William Ruto has urged South Sudan's President Salva Kiir and First Vice President Riek Machar to begin talks aimed at promoting peace. This follows an increase in tensions in the country after Vice President Machar's residence was recently surrounded by the military and several of his allies were arrested. In a statement, the president urged the two leaders to abandon their disagreements as the region strives for stabilization under Intergovernmental Development Authority. The events have intensified concerns about the weak peace pact ratified in 2018. In addition, President Ruto indicated that diplomatic efforts are underway to establish a lasting solution to the crisis. Russian military forces freed 3 localities in the Kursk region, which is under attack by Ukrainian troops. The Ministry of Defense emphasized that as a result of the offensive actions of the units of the northern troops, the 3 localities are under control of the Russian army. Also, the military agency detailed that during the clashes, they defeated 14 Kyiv brigades in the border areas of Kursk, which brought the number of Ukrainian casualties to 180 so far. Several war vehicles were also destroyed, among them a German-made Marder, 2 armored transports and 7 armored combat vehicles. In South Korea on Saturday, former President Yoon Suk-yeol was released after spending almost 2 months in jail. The Seoul Central District Court ruled that Yoon's arrest had exceeded the legal period and that his prosecution was carried out past the set detention period. Following the court's ruling, the president, now freed, will face the constitutional resolution on his impeachment trial after his fleeting declaration of martial law on December 3rd. This decision, which will determine whether he is permanently deposed or restored to power, is expected to be known in the coming weeks, if not days. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Find a short break, we'll be right back. Welcome back to From the South. March 8th, International Women's Day, was established by the General Assembly of the United Nations Organization in 1977. The United Nations established this day in remembrance of March 8th, 1857, when 129 women textile workers in New York died in a fire while demonstrating against the long working days, low wages, and precarious working conditions. This Saturday, as part of the commemoration of a new international women's strike, they will take to the streets again to counteract the violation of the human rights of women and girls. This date seeks to highlight the role of women in the territories and communities. In Europe, citizens mobilized for International Women's Day to demand real equality and an end to gender-based violence, discrimination and sexual harassment. Women rights activists mobilized throughout Europe to reject the resurgence of the extreme right wing in the continent. On this day, the Italian government approved a bill that typifies feminicide as a crime in the legal system with a penalty of life imprisonment. This decision came after an increase in alerts for harassment and violence in that country. Likewise, in Spain, activists started a day of struggle for equality and against reactionary and sexist movements. Parisian activists also took to the streets of France to defend women's rights. Across Turkey, thousands of women mobilized Saturday on International Women's Day to reject inequality and violence against women. Demonstrators denounced the increase in sexual harassment and pressure from patriarchal society and called for policies to diminish such pressure. Dozens of women gathered in the capital Istanbul for a feminist night march, despite the fact that in recent years, authorities have blocked attempts by women to demonstrate in Turkey's Square, Istanbul's regional rallying point for demonstrations. Despite President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's government declaring 2025 as the year of the family, critics accuse his administration of imposing restrictions on women's rights and not doing enough to address men's violence against women. And we go to Latin America now. In Quito, capital of Ecuador, hundreds of women are gathering to celebrate International Women's Day with a march towards the center of the city. It is a march to voice women's opposition to violence, the patriarchal system, and in defense of women's rights. Venezuelan women are marching in the city of Caracas celebrating International Women's Day. Activities to mark this international holiday began earlier in the morning with a march through several points of the city of Caracas. Venezuelan men also joined this festivity to echo the fight against sexism, gender-based violence and discrimination. These activities seek to make the female struggle for equality visible all over the world.
And today, empowered women committed and passionate about our revolution come to meet with the feminist leader Nicolas Maduro, the man who has given continuity to the awakening of Hugo Chavez, for acknowledging and giving visibility to Venezuelan women.
Now we go to Mexico, where various groups are meeting at the intersection monument, symbolically renamed Roundabout of the Women Who Fight, as part of the activities to commemorate International Women's Day. Thousands of women took to the streets to demand an end to gender, economic, vicarious, sexual and political violence. The demonstration meant to reach to the capital Zócalo and started at the Independence and Angel Obelisk monument to the revolution and the Roundabout of the Women Who Fight. At the rally, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum vindicated the struggle of women for their rights, for having historically endured inequality. Also in this context, in Russia, President Vladimir Putin sent a congratulation message to Russian women on this International Women's Day. The Russian president availed himself of the international holiday to underscore the importance of women in the development of his country. He said this date serves to exalt gratitude, love and respect for women. Putin said women are the ones who inspire men to perform noble deeds and to become true protectors of their families.
Dear women, we know that a great part of life depends on you, on your talent, creative energy, love, the extreme degree of responsibility with which you take on any task. We always admire your beauty, tenderness, and charm. Have a happy day along your loved ones.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.